New York State Republican Party Chairman Ed Cox is joining us. And Ed, I was thinking of you from the last time you were on, the friction that it looked like existed between you and Donald Trump. Maybe goes back a couple of years ago when Donald Trump was entertaining running for governor of New York. And then he was going after you as someone who looked at the same office. He's never won anything, so he doesn't know how to win. That was then. This is now. I'm not saying you speak glowingly of one another now, but the hatchet does seem to have been buried. What happened?
Well, it wasn't much of a hatchet. I was just doing the right thing, and even his supporters on the state committee agreed that if you wanted to run for governor, you had to be willing to compete. And I went down to Mar-a-Lago to explain to him, and we had dinner together, just how our system worked. And it was clear that he just didn't want to have any competition. If you don't, or if you're not willing to compete, you really don't want it. And I don't think he really won in the end. And now he's very happy that he didn't do it.
Yeah, no, you're right about that, because he's since acknowledged, he's since acknowledged things have kind of worked out for me. But you know, Carl Paladino, who did ultimately run for governor, said of you that he's very much an establishment puppy. He gets his signals from Washington, from the elite down there. Now, of course, Paladino, himself a big backer of Trump. I raise this not to embarrass you or Donald Trump or Paladino, but to say that I suspect that a lot of that friction between, for want of a better term, the establishment and Donald Trump remains.
Well, it's different with Carl. I mean, Carl and I, as he said to me, Ed, you'll be my friend for life, after I really gave him support when he got the nomination in 2010. But since then, he's sort of gone this way and that way, and I think he needs some. Anyway, the bottom line with Carl.
It sounds like he doesn't like you now.
Well, no, actually, we get along very well privately. Okay. Yeah, and he's trying to do good things out there. He's trying to reform the Buffalo schools. We're both for charter schools.
I see what you're saying, but Ed, that's another thing I'm seeing here. I'm seeing overtures made by guys like you, for one of the better establishment figures. I don't know whether increasingly there's a sense that already could be inevitable. I see it in a New York Post endorsement. I see others who are backing away from criticizing Donald Trump. I'm not saying resigning themselves to Donald Trump, but opening themselves up to the possibility it will be Donald Trump.
Well, first, here's the point I'm making about Carl Paladino. He's got his own agenda. And one thing candidates do not like is that people who supposedly represent them have their own agenda. It's not good for Donald Trump. And I think that Donald Trump, well, he's given Chairman Priebus a pretty rough ride, so I can't quite say at this point that
Do you share Reince Priebus's concerns, though, that Donald Trump is trying to make it look like the establishment is going after him, referring to the stealing, and that is Trump's term, of the Colorado delegates, that this signals troubles for your convention?
2 points about that. First of all, this is good for Donald Trump in that it gave him a big red alert that his campaign organization needed to be beefed up if he were to win the nomination, if he were to unite the party at the convention, and particularly if he were going to have an effective general election campaign. He was basically running the campaign himself.
No, I don't have that, but it's also reminded people, and again, you can make lemonade out of lemons in that case, and he did, and made this a populist sort of argument that the parties are running in lockstep to their bosses. Now, that has been a similar rap he raised just in his speech in Plattsburgh today about poor Bernie Sanders, who doesn't get quite the number of delegates as he does the popular vote and this winning streak that he's on, but it's not reflecting delegates to that effect. In other words, he's trying to play this off to be, I'm the only purist out there. I am a man of the people, and not guys not like you, but you know what he's saying.
He wants to be more the outsider than Ted Cruz. Here was a time when Ted Cruz benefited from this, and so he could put Ted Cruz on the defensive and still play the real outsider. Good politics. And he's proving, look, this is the first time he's really been running for elective office. He came up to the line, almost got in on several occasions, including running for governor and for New York 2 years ago. He finally got in, and I have to say he's proved to have a real talent, I mean, almost a genius level, to craft a message and then put it in terms that really makes it stick well.
So you think, guys like you, certainly you're open and amenable to Donald Trump. I mean, you think that the party would fall in line if it looks like Donald Trump gets to the convention with more than those 1,237 delegates, and support would be there and everyone would be okay?
I've been saying for several months what the Post editorial board said this morning. I think he could be a very effective general election campaign. He's going to have to pivot a lot to do it, but one thing he wants to do, Neil, is to win. and he's got a lot of talent, and his themes have been very general, and it leaves him a lot of latitude to maneuver to present himself well in the general election.
That was a kind of a damning editorial insofar as you mentioned the pivot argument, but get up to speed when it comes to matters of trade, get up to speed when it comes to how we deal with the Chinese. I'm paraphrasing it, but to make the point, it was an endorsement, but not a rousing one.
Well, he has learned that he's got a lot of work to do with his organization, the way he's presenting with issues, but the political talent is there to carry those issues if he gets his organization up to speed.
All right, we'll watch closely. Ed Cox, it's always an honor. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to be with you.